Hi everyone! In this video I want to show you how to use the Procedural Environment Generator based on wave function collapse algorithm. The plugin allows you to build random environments using your basic blocks and rules for that. First, we need to go to the library and add the plugin to the engine. I have it already added, so I don't need to press install. After that, you can use plugin in all of your projects, or just go ahead and create a fresh one. I have my project already opened here. This is again just a simple, freshly created one. First, we need to enable plugin for it. So we go ahead, find it in the list of plugins, and click enabled. Then restart. Alright. So when it's restarted, we have it enabled, and we can use either classes that it provides. Has, for example, WFC actor class available. But I will talk about it later, and demo content, which can be found inside the engine content in one of the folders that corresponds to our plugin. To do that, we need to show engine content in our Unreal editor. So here we are. We can now find wave function collapse environment generator content. It has all necessary meshes used in the blueprint, which we will just go ahead and use right now. So the plan is that we look how it works, then we look at the settings we have pre-selected for this model. And then I will show you how to create your fresh new blueprint with your own settings. So to have our environment generated, I can just go ahead and press Generate an Editor button. And here we are. That's the ready level at some point. So with the blocks we have, we can generate different kinds of combinations of these blocks. So if I press it again, I will have another level, but it will still follow all the rules and have no broken blocks and whatever. So how can we achieve that? Let's just go ahead and open the blueprint. We can view all our blocks in viewport of this blueprint. Each of them has visualized connectors to the blocks which can connect to it. But let's just go and see what the settings are. There are plenty of settings for the blueprint itself, for the root node. These are X, Y, and Z, which are basically the dimensions of the environment block which we want to build in the end. We can modify them, increase the size, decrease the size, whatever we want. Ground is the lowermost layer of our environment. Currently it's set to solid. So we set here only the names of the components we want to be set as specific boundaries. Floor, in our example, it's basically the floor, so the first floor after the ground. So we want to have proper restrictions, not to have stairs go outside to nowhere. And the air border is probably the thing that you will need most of the time. It makes sure that around your model everything is air and no blocks lead to nowhere. Size of the voxel depends on the models of the meshes you use for your generation. In the example, we have it equal to 200. This basically allows you to use different sizes of your meshes. So if you use smaller meshes, you can decrease this size, not to have gaps between the modules. Seed and last seed, you don't need them right now, but they are needed to recreate the same model. I will show you later how this works. And shadow material is actually a quite important one. It allows you to see all these gray things in the blueprint. They basically make the same blocks half opaque, which allows you to distinguish from real blocks and their surroundings. And the last one, generate and play mode, I will also show you later how this works. Now let's just go ahead to the individual components settings. Each of these components has type WFC WFC voxel. Later on, we will create our own blueprint with such elements. But for now, let's click on one of them and see their parameters. This is, in most ways, just the static mesh component which you have already used in your projects. It has the mesh assigned to it, but it also has a set of specific options which you can set to create rules. The weight, in my example, this is just 1.0. If you want your mesh to appear more often in your scene, you increase weight to 2, 3, or 10, or whatever value you want. And there are different kinds of connectors to the neighboring meshes. For example, for this block called stairs down, the X connectors in plus and minus directions are zeros, which means that it can connect to air or blocks with the same air connectors. Y plus, this list to us right now is called 2, which, for example, connects to this side of that block as well. So this one has the same connector number. And 4 leads to the continuation to the stairs right there. There are different types of these horizontal connectors. Exactly 3 of them. Connects to itself means it doesn't matter which side you rotate this this block, it still can connect to itself. This is quite a generic rule. You can also see another types, straight and flipped. These two always go in pairs, and they mean that if one of the connectors is named straight, it can only be connected to another one with the same number but with flipped modificator. So 4 straight cannot connect to another 4 straight, it can only connect to 4 flipped. So that's the basic idea. And here what that means, that the stairs cannot connect to the same stairs which will go down. they can only connect to one that goes further up. And this is this example, which has 4 straight directions. There are also vertical connectors. They work quite the same, but they have different modificators, which mean whether we allow any rotation for this block when it's connected in this direction. So this means it can connect to any air block down, rotated in any way, but if we go up, we can only use the upper block with the same amount of rotation. Or if we use another block which has, for instance, rotate 2 times, they will be rotated accordingly to match. So this is very important. If you have a limitation in vertical connection, you need to set up proper connector type here. And there is also a list of excluded blocks, excluded voxels. I don't have too many set up here, but we have some. For example, here we have plenty of excluded blocks for upper block for this stairs ground voxel. What this basically means that we cannot use all these 10 blocks even if the rules match. So we want to have space above this block to not make players stuck. And for that we set this list, and we only can have very limited amount of available voxels in this case. And that's basically it. Not too much settings, you just need to properly understand the ruling. Now I will return to some of the options here, so we can clear what we have generated and just change some of these parameters. For example, let's change the sizes. Okay. Generate. So it takes a bit longer for bigger sizes, but here's the result. These are just basic static meshes, and you can copy them where you want. So they are not linked to the plugin. They're just actors with static meshes attached. We will also just go ahead and remove some restrictions, so we won't limit floor and air, for example. And press generate again. This will clean the existing items and generate new ones. We have too much solid here. Okay, let's try again. Alright, so here you see that there are plenty of blocks leading to nowhere. This is just because we have reached the boundaries and we have not restricted where these blocks may lead. But for your use case, you might need also cases like that if you don't care, for example. Alright. So let's now look what other options can do. I will reduce the amount of blocks we put. and put the restrictions back. I will just select Generate in Play Mode. Let's see how it works here. Let's clear what we don't need. Alright, so here's the play mode. Yeah, and this generation is interactive. So you can see the process of building your level. I think it looks pretty cool. You can then just try to go through your level here. All right. So then, if you liked the result, you can copy the last seed value and save it somewhere, or I will just put it right here and click Generate. And what this does is it actually repeats the random generation with the same seed, and this generates you exactly the same level you got previously with this value. So if I press Generate again, I will get the same result. So you see, this is the same. So we've played enough with our demo content. Let's just try to create our new, fresh blueprint. What we need to do for that, we have already searched for wave function collapse actor. We don't need, okay, I will leave the demo content here in the bottom. We'll add our actor to the scene and create a blueprint for it inside our content. Here we are. Let's make it smaller. So now we want to set it up by selecting the sizes, setting the shadow, we don't have yet the components, so we don't know the restrictions, but we will know them soon. So let's just add components here. To do that, we search for wave function collapse voxel and give it a name. Okay, let's call it air, for example. To make an empty voxel, we don't need to set any mesh to it. We just need weight and connectors. For air, it's quite convenient to leave them all as zeros. It's a basic connection to everything which has nothing. Another useful one is something we called previously solid. Let's call it the same way. In our case, we don't have solid mesh, so we can also leave it empty, but set a different type of connectors. Let's have them set to 1. Then we create floor, and for floor we have mesh, so we can just go and drag the mesh we have here. You immediately see that without setting any connectors yet, it tries to connect to air because it has zeros for now. If we change them to ones, you see they start to move to the solid, one by one. So now they think they can be connected to solid. And this is basically how connectors work. Yeah. Then you just continue creating new blocks, setting meshes for them, weights, and different kinds of connectors. 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever you want. And depending on the rules you set, currently these are not valid rules, so I probably won't get anything interesting here as a result. Oh, but when you're set up, you can put here, generate an editor, set restrictions if you need them. It's quite likely that you need some other kinds of restrictions. And that's basically it. You can generate whatever you want. So just go ahead, try to use the plugin, and let's see what you can generate. Thank you for listening, and bye-bye.